What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today, we're in the kitchen making the most important side dish of all time. If you ruin this, your family may never forgive you, but don't worry, I've got you covered. Today, we're making mac and cheese. Meet me in the kitchen. Let's make it happen.
All right. That's mac and cheese. Yeah.
Today, we got a couple options to increase the flavor or enhance the flavor. One of the things I like to do is either boil my pasta in chicken broth or just use chicken bouillon powder and water. You could also just salt the water. Totally up to you, but I feel like that extra flavor from the chicken bouillon powder really works its way into the macaroni and cheese and gives it a different flavor element. We got heavy cream and half. That's going to be used for our cheese sauce, Parmesan, Colby Jack, cheddar cheese, and mozzarella. We got sour cream, we got my AP seasoning, and my secret ingredient, which is controversial every year, but everybody that's made this before knows that it's delicious, a little sweetened condensed milk. The reason for the sweetened condensed milk is you're using a lot of different flavor combinations and different types of cheese. Some of them are sharp, some of them are smoky if you're using smoked Gouda, things of that nature. That little hint of sweetness marries everything together. Think about the utilization of sugar in pasta sauces like, spaghetti sauce, for example. It balances the acidity a little bit and just marries the flavors together. That's where that comes into play. All right, guys, obviously you can't have good mac and cheese without good quality cheese. So a couple pro tips right out the gate. I recommend shredding your own cheese for a number of reasons. First and foremost, store-bought shredded cheese has anti-caking agents, things like potato starch, which prevent it from clumping up in the bag, but it also prevents it from melting nicely. And a lot of times it'll make your cheese sauce gritty and your end product's not going to be as good. So I like to break it down into flavor profiles, right? So I got my Colby Jack, which in my opinion melts the prettiest on top of the mac and cheese to give you that nice color, and it browns up nicely. That's going on the top of the mac and cheese. When we're building our flavors on the inside or the cheese sauce, we got something that's pretty mild in flavor like mozzarella. That's gonna be kind of the base. Then we have our cheddar, which is traditional in your mac and cheese, and then we got something like a smoked Gouda. Also like things like Munster, Fontina are good options as well, but these are the ones we're going with the addition of Parmesan cheese too, which is going to bring a little nuttiness and some salt. So to go ahead and shred our Colby Jack first and set that to the side because that is going to be the topping. You could also throw it in the cheese mixture too; it's delicious. But I really think that it melts the nicest and gives you the prettiest presentation when you go to do your mac and cheese. Cheddar, a lot of people put on top, but I don't think it melts that well. Not nearly as good as Colby Jack. And I think it browns up a little bit too much. Not exactly sure why. I'm sure there's some scientists in the comments that'll let me know, but Colby Jack, in my opinion, for somebody that's been making mac and cheese forever, it's the best. So once you have your cheese shredded, oftentimes you're left with these little end pieces that didn't quite make the cut. You got a couple choices for that. So you can make like a charcuterie board as an appetizer for your guests for Thanksgiving. Or one of the things that I like to do is save them, cut them into bite-sized pieces, and then sprinkle them throughout the casserole dish so that as the mac and cheese bakes, you get little pockets of extra cheesiness. You're gonna get a really great cheese pull when somebody's fork hits that pocket. So another pro tip for you. All right, guys, now it's time to make the cheese sauce, and I am a fan of using a roux for the cheese sauce for mac and cheese. I don't really use egg with mine. So today we're gonna go ahead and melt a half stick of butter. To that, we're going in with 2 or 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. The more flour you use, the thicker the consistency of your mac and cheese is gonna be. So if you like the brick style mac and cheese, you wanna go a little heavier on the roux. If you like yours a little bit more loose and creamy, then you can just use the 2 or 3 tablespoons that I just discussed. So we're gonna mix that in. We wanna cook that raw flour taste off. You want it to become one with the butter. Classic roux style. We're making a blonde roux here. So just get your spatula working. Make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom and burning. Let's give it a good 1 or 2 minutes to really cook that raw flour taste off. You don't want that ruining our delicious cheese sauce we're about to make. Next up, we're going in with 4 cups of cream. You can use heavy cream, half and half, or a blend of the two. 4 cups in total for 1 pound of macaroni pasta. We're gonna break out the whisk, give that a good mix. And then we want to bring this up to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, you'll notice that it starts to thicken up a bit. And that is because the flour has worked its way into the cream. And you have yourself the basics of a sauce here. Once that happens, we'll start adding in our cheese. Another pro tip is to not add your cheese when the liquid is boiling hot, because what will happen is the fat will start to separate from the cheese and it'll get oily. So if you ever had a mac and cheese, that's usually what happened there. So we're just gonna gradually bring this up to a gentle boil, then turn it down to a simmer, start adding in our cheese, season to taste, and we'll be right where we want to be. All right, so our sauce is coming together nicely. Now it's time to start adding the cheese. Before we do that, though, I'm going in with a 1/4 cup of sour cream. You could also use cream cheese if you want to. I like the flavor of the sour cream. Kind of blends well with everything else. But the cream cheese, if you want to do that, it's going to add a nice creamy note to it. The sour cream does that also, but cream cheese is obviously a little creamier. All about how you want your mac and cheese to turn out. I'm going sour cream. Sometimes I do cream cheese if I'm trying to keep it a little bit more on the mild side, flavor-wise. But we're going to mix that sour cream in, and then in goes 1 tablespoon of the secret ingredient. Inevitably, somebody's going to comment about this and say something bad, and that same person has never tried it. 1 tablespoon. It is impossible for 1 tablespoon of sweetened condensed milk to make this big pot of mac and cheese sweet. It's just there as a background flavored note to kind of, bring everything together. So I'm going to give that a mix, and now it's time to start adding in the cheese. You want the residual heat in there to start melting the cheese. You don't want the heat or the flame on high. So in goes the parm first. As always, guys, the specific measurements and ingredients for this recipe can be found on MrMakeItHappen.com. Got printable directions, printable recipes on the website. Smoked Gouda's going in, mozzarella's going in, and then finally the cheddar. Just add a little bit at a time, give it a mix, and just let that residual heat melt the cheese nicely. No fat separating, no sauce breaking. Then we'll start to season this up. Remember, we boiled our noodles in chicken bouillon powder, which is pretty salty. So you don't want to go too crazy on the seasoning too early. You want to taste your noodles, taste the sauce. There's a lot of sodium in a lot of these cheeses too. So you want to taste everything before you get heavy-handed on the seasoning. As you can see, the cheese is melting beautifully, and you just keep adding a little bit at a time. All right, so now I'm going to season it up, just a pinch of chicken bouillon powder. That's going to add a little MSG and deliciousness. Some smoked paprika, that's going to play off the smokiness from the smoked Gouda. Don't go too crazy on that though. You use regular paprika if you want to. And then my all-purpose seasoning, which is a blend of salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder. And that's really all you need, guys. You got plenty of flavor in your pasta. Plenty of flavor from the seasonings we just used. Don't get too crazy. Just gonna mix that in, and we'll be ready to put this in the casserole dish and get that in the oven. That's the consistency you want to see though on your cheese sauce. It should almost be like a fondue. For anybody that's ever been to a fondue station at an event or. All right, so now you're gonna add your cheese sauce right on in there to your cooked pasta. That's the sounds of love right there. But again, this is kind of a personal preference thing. You can make it as, cheesy as you want to, as thick as you want to, or as loose as you want to. This is about the consistency I like of mine, which is probably about, 3/4 of the cheese sauce that we made. But everything is well coated, like you see here. All right, guys, so if it's not cheesy and flavorful enough, it's time to sneak in some little pockets of cheesy deliciousness. That way, if you ever want to take a video, you're going to have an adequate cheese pull. Just space them out nicely. These are going to melt right on into the center. And this is a thick enough mac and cheese that's kind of going to hold it right there. So when you go to hit it with your fork, you should have a nice little cheese pocket. Obviously, you can skip this step, guys. This is kind of some behind the scenes magic on how we get cheese pulls in the industry that I'm in. But if you like cheese, I mean, it is mac and cheese, right? It's the second thing listed in the title. I think we're good though. Now we're gonna go ahead and top it with that Colby Jack I talked about. Just a nice thin layer of that. It's gonna melt beautifully, give you that dual color, that white and that yellow. That's gonna brown up nicely in the oven. And you will win this show at Thanksgiving this year, or Christmas, or Friendsgiving, or whenever you decide to make this. All right, people, it's time. The mac and cheese is out of the oven. We're gonna let it rest for at least 10 to 15 minutes before you slice into it or scoop it out, whatever you wanna call it. This is the part where I say brace yourself for a trademark money shot. Say it with me, guys, looking good. The only thing left to do is dig in for the taste test, but before we do that, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell to enable notifications as well. All right, people, this recipe and 100 plus more can be found in my brand new cookbook, Meet Me in the Kitchen. This cookbook is very high quality. It's got tons of great recipes in it. All right, guys, enough running my big mouth. It's time to dig in for the taste test, aka my favorite part of the job. Woo. Fellas, if you're having trouble with her mom or her dad, and they invite you over to Thanksgiving, and you bring them this, you're gonna be good. Or if you mess it up, it might ruin everything. Practice a couple of times before you do that. Sweet. It's just there. God damn it. Bloopers. That's what I get for talking shit.